Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. My husband pointed a wet spoon at me and said, "This is my house." I was scraping dried cereal off the high chair tray. Our kid was whining for more juice, that high-tired whine. The dishwasher hummed like it wanted out too. I laughed at first, and that was my first mistake. I am Emily, and I was 31 that day. Writing this now, I can hear his voice like a recording. It was flat and annoyed and almost proud, like a cold slap. Back then I told myself we were just tired and stressed. Now I know it was the first crack that showed everything underneath. "You know how much I pay for this place every month." He flicked water off his fingers and stared at the floor. He always does that when he wants to sound calm. Calm never means calm with him, it means loaded. I wiped the tray slower and waited for the next hit. "While you stay home and play house all day." The words hit harder than the volume because he barely raised it. My cheeks burned and I suddenly cared about one sticky spot. I scrubbed that one patch like it was the problem. If I looked up, I would have to react to him. "Playing house, huh?" I tried to laugh and keep it light. "I keep your kid alive and your laundry clean, rough job." He did not smile, he just leaned back against the counter. "Exactly, it's my kid and my laundry and my counter." Something twisted in my stomach at that word, my repeated like that. I had left my job 3 months before because we agreed. We agreed it was best for our son and for us. Now he rolled the same choice around like it was a weapon. I felt stupid for not seeing that angle sooner. "Look, I pay for everything here, so yeah, my house." He tapped the counter with his knuckles like he was staking a claim. "My money and my bills. My name is on every paper. You remember that when you start complaining about how I talk." "I am not complaining, I just asked about the grocery budget." My voice came out thin and careful like I was asking a teacher. "We said this was our decision, not mine alone. You told me to quit, you wanted me here." By the last word my throat felt tight and my hands shook. "I did not tell you to quit, you begged to stay home." He grabbed a towel and wiped the same clean spot over and over. That move drives me crazy now because I know it means control. Back then I just thought he was restless and trying to look busy. "You said you wanted to focus on the baby and the house." Our toddler dropped his cup on the floor and started to cry. The sound cut through the room like an alarm we both ignored. I bent to grab the cup and felt his eyes on my back. "See, you take care of him and I take care of this place." He raised his chin toward the ceiling like the whole house was proof. Something small collapsed in my chest and it stayed gone after that day. I cleaned the floor and nodded like we had a normal division of labor. In my head, I started listing things he could not do without me. It felt petty and childish, and still I clung to that list. I did not know yet that he already had his own list about me. That night I opened the fridge and heard it again in my head. "My house and my money and my rules." I closed the door gently so nothing would rattle and give me away. I already knew I would pretend this was nothing in the morning. I did not realize that pretending would become my full-time job in his house. He crawled into bed that night like we had argued about dishes. No apology, no mention of what he threw in my face. He rolled onto his side and rested a hand on my hip. I stared at the wall and counted my breaths to keep quiet. Silence in that room felt louder than any fight we ever had. "You're mad." His voice came out lazy, almost amused, like he caught a kid sulking. I pulled the blanket higher and forced out a stiff, "I'm fine." He laughed once under his breath, low and confident. "You always do that when you know I'm right." That line still irritates me when I think about it. Back then it worked on me like a trigger. It made me scan the whole day for my own mistakes. Right about what exactly? My jaw clenched the second the words left my mouth. He dragged his fingers along my arm, slow and casual. "We agreed you'd stay home, remember that part? You wanted time with the baby, you hated your old schedule. So I bust my ass, keep everything paid, handle the stress. And you get upset because I mention it once." The way he said once made me doubt my own ears. It had not been once and my body knew it. My chest felt tight, my shoulders tensed against the mattress. "You didn't just mention it, you made it sound like I owe you rent." My voice shook and I hated that it shook in front of him. He sighed and rolled onto his back like I exhausted him. You always twist things into some big drama. I'm just stating facts, I cover all the bills. If I stop tomorrow, this whole place disappears. That's just reality, not an insult. Lion. Gee, there, I almost believed him. Not the part about everything vanishing overnight, but the tone. He sounded steady, like someone explaining math to a stubborn child. It made me wonder if I actually was ungrateful. That doubt is how control sneaks in, by the way. I know you work hard. The words felt like a peace offering I did not want to give. I know I'm not bringing in money right now. I'm just asking you not to use that against me when you're mad. I waited for the smallest sign he even heard me. He slid closer instead. Look, you said you wanted this life. His breath hit my neck, warm and heavy. You begged me to let you leave that job and stay with the baby. You got what you wanted, so now you live with the trade-off. Trade-off? That phrase hit me harder than any of the earlier lines. It made it sound like love was a contract I signed without reading. What trade-off? I turned to face him and searched his expression for some joke. He blinked slow like I was missing something obvious. You don't pay for anything, so you don't decide everything. Simple sentence, ugly message. He tucked hair behind my ear like he was comforting me. I'm not your enemy, I'm just being honest. I wish I had gotten up right then and slept on the couch. Instead, I let him pull me close, body stiff, while he relaxed. He drifted off in minutes, breathing deep and even. I lay awake counting every time his earlier words replayed. By morning, I had convinced myself I overreacted. He walked into the kitchen like the night had gone great. Kissed the top of my head, called me my girl in a playful tone. Poured himself coffee and hummed something under his breath. You feel better today, right? Late night talks always get you in your feelings. That last part sounded harmless on the surface. Underneath it, there was this small jab. Like I was some emotional mess that needed his logic. I'm okay. I busied myself wiping the table far more than it needed. Zog. He leaned against the doorway and watched me move around. I was thinking we should tighten up grocery spending a bit. My stomach dropped before he even finished the thought. There's no reason to swipe the card like crazy every week. I don't swipe like crazy. The defensiveness jumped out of my mouth before I could stop it. I buy what the house needs. I heard myself use that word house and it tasted wrong. Do you think I'm wasting money? He smirked the way people do when they feel smart. Not wasting, just not tracking. Since I handle everything, I have to look at the big picture. He took his phone out and tapped the screen a few times. I actually lowered the limit on your card so we don't go over. I froze with a dish towel in my hand. You did what? My voice came out too soft for how loud my head was shouting. He shrugged like he had adjusted the thermostat. It's still enough for basics, just keeps things under control. Under control? That phrase made something in me flinch. Why didn't you tell me before changing it? Because you would react like this. He gestured at me with the coffee cup, a little amused. Like what exactly? You know, stressed, dramatic, making it about trust. He rolled his eyes toward the ceiling and let out a short laugh. I'm trying to keep us afloat, not sneak around. If I wanted to hide things, you wouldn't know at all. That sentence lodged in my chest like a warning. If I wanted to hide things, you wouldn't know. He probably meant it as a joke, but it did not feel like one. I wiped my palms on my jeans to stop them from shaking. Right then, I realized I had never logged into any account myself. Can I see the statements? I tried to sound curious, not accusing. Just so I know what we're working with. He stared at me a beat too long, then forced a smile. Why are you planning to run off with your rich stay-at-home savings? I did a quick fake laugh because that is what he expected. No, I just want to understand what we can spend. Thought we were a team. That word hung there between us like a test we both failed. He finally turned his screen toward me for half a second. Numbers flashed by too quickly to process. He swiped down, pointed at a rough total, then pulled it back. See, plenty of bills, not a lot of fun cash. Trust me to handle it, that's what I do. He tucked the phone in his pocket before I could ask more. If you're reading this and thinking I should have pushed harder, I know. At that time, though, I felt trapped between doubt and fear. Push too far and risk another blow up. Stay quiet and pretend this was all normal. I chose quiet, and that choice would cost me more than I saw then. Your card isn't going through. The cashier held it between two fingers like it might bite. I heard the beep stop and the kid in the cart started fussing. Someone behind me exhaled loud enough to make a point. Heat crawled up my neck before my B. Rain even caught up. Run it again. My voice came out steady, but my hand shook a little. She slid it once more and the same flat error flashed up. Declined. That word punched harder than I expected. I stared at the screen like I could will it to change. Groceries were piled on the counter and my kid kicked the seat. Juice, juice, juice. His chant got sharper and my pulse sped up with it. I felt everyone behind us watching and silently counting minutes. Maybe the system is glitchy. I tried to sound casual and failed miserably. I know there's money in there. Which was a lie because I had never actually seen the balance. That fact slammed into me right there in front of strangers. The cashier gave a tight, polite smile that hurt worse than anger. Do you have another form of payment? I checked my wallet even though I knew what was in it. A couple of small bills and a lot of useless loyalty cards. Nothing that would cover what I had already loaded up. My kid started to whine louder, eyes glossy and tired. Mom, juice now. He kicked again and the cart rattled under his feet. I forced a smile toward the line like this was funny somehow. It did not feel funny, it felt like getting stripped in public. Can you just hold this a second? I pushed the cart aside and stepped away from the register. My fingers fumbled with my phone as I dialed him. He answered on the third ring with a sharp yeah. Noise in the background told me he was at work. My card is being rejected. The words tumbled out faster than I meant them to. I'm standing at the store with a full cart and a screaming kid. The total isn't even that high. Did something happen with the account? He let the silence stretch just long enough to spike my panic. Then a short, amused breath came through the speaker. Guess you reached the new limit. He crunched on something while he talked like this was a snack break. I told you we needed to cut back, remember? That was for emergencies. I moved closer to the shelf and lowered my voice. These are basics, food and diapers and some cleaning stuff. I can't just walk out with nothing. My eyes burned and I blinked fast so I would not cry there. Relax. That word from him always meant the opposite. You probably grabbed more than you realize, you always do. Take a few things off and run it again. We'll bump the limit next month if numbers look better. Next month? I looked at the milk and the diapers and the basic stuff. How am I supposed to guess what fits under your invisible cap? My volume rose before I could stop it and the kid yelped. A couple near me turned their heads toward the sound. He sighed loud enough that the microphone crackled. Come on, don't make a scene over groceries. This is why I keep an eye on the spending, you spiral. Just put back whatever isn't essential and try again. It's not that deep. Not that deep. I swallowed hard and forced myself to switch into survival mode. Fine, stay on the line. I pushed the cart back to the cashier with a stiff smile. Sorry, I have to remove a few things. I pulled items off the counter as fast as I could. Every movement felt like a confession that I could not afford life. The cashier avoided my eyes and just kept scanning. Try it now, please. I could feel my husband breathing in my ear while we waited. This time the transaction passed and the tiny approval sound chimed. My shoulders dropped an inch, but the shame stayed lodged. Ozzy? His voice came through bright like he had solved a puzzle. Told you it would work if you didn't overdo it. Overdo it? I loaded the bags while my kid reached for the one with snacks. Do not ever let my card get denied like that again. The sentence slipped out low and tight through my teeth. I surprised both of us with how serious it sounded. He laughed, short and dismissive. You act like I did it to embarrass you. This is how grown-ups handle budgets when one person earns. If you want more freedom, you know how to fix that. Go back to work and pay some of these bills. That last line hit me right in the part that still felt proud. I hung up without answering because anything I said would crack. Walking to the car, my kid babbled about snacks and cartoons. I nodded and smiled at him while my brain replayed the call. On the drive home, I started to believe his version of events again. When he came through the door that night, he acted upbeat, dropped his keys on the counter, and kissed the top of my head. "How was the rest of your shopping adventure?" He grinned like we shared some private joke. My stomach flipped because it did not feel like a joke to me. It was humiliating. I faced him fully and gripped the edge of the counter. People were staring while the card failed over and over. "You changed that limit and never told me exactly what it was." I felt like a kid begging for lunch money. His smile fad. "Add into something colder and more controlled." "There you go again with the drama. It's a declined purchase, not a natural disaster. You still walked out with what you actually needed. You just didn't get to throw extras in without thinking." "I don't toss extras in." I could hear the strain in my own voice and it annoyed me. "I buy things for the house and for our kid and for us. I'm not stacking luxury items in the cart. You made a change that affects me and didn't even warn me." He leaned closer, eyes sharp in a way I knew too well. "I didn't warn you because you don't listen when we talk numbers. That's why I manage everything and you handle home stuff. It's about roles, that's all. You can either respect that or start contributing financially again." There it was, clean and plain. Respect his control or earn my way out. The choice sounded simple when he laid it out like that. Inside my chest, though, everything twisted into a knot. I nodded even as something in me started planning an exit. The cursor blinked next to the line for last name when I changed it. I erased his last name and typed my maiden name instead. My fingers hovered over the trackpad while I held my breath. The baby monitor hissed softly on the table like a warning. If he walked in right then and saw that screen, I was done. Opening a bank account should not feel like a crime. I knew that even then, I swear I did. It still felt like sneaking out the back door of my own life. I checked the hallway again, then clicked submit. A new account number popped up and my stomach flipped hard. There it was, a tiny pocket of money that did not run through him. Zero balance, but still mine in a way nothing else was. I copied the details to a note I hid inside another folder. Then I closed every tab and opened a recipe like that had been my plan. I sat there staring at ingredients I did not care about at all. During nap time, I pulled the laptop back toward me and opened my email. Draft, delete, draft again. "How are you?" felt fake. "I need help" felt pathetic. After 5 tries, I finally wrote something simple to my old manager. "Do you ever need remote part-time help, even small tasks?" My hand shook above the touchpad before I sent that message. Because if she said no, I was right where he wanted me. If she said yes, everything in our home would tilt. I hit send and watched the screen like it might explode. Then I shut the laptop as the baby monitor crackled again. Her response came faster than some of his text replies. I checked my phone while I wiped peanut butter off a tiny face. "Hey stranger, we might have something flexible. Can you talk tomorrow?" My heart dropped straight into my shoes and then shot up again. I wiped my hands on a towel and typed back, "Yes, absolutely." Lining up the call felt like planning a robbery. I picked a time he would definitely be at work, no chance of walking in. I set a cartoon on the TV and handed my kid a snack. Then I locked myself in the bedroom with the laptop and my nerves. When her face appeared on the screen, I almost hung up. She asked how home life was, and I lied so smoothly it scared me. "Busy, lots of laundry, trying to keep a routine." I could feel sweat on my back even though I barely moved. When I finally mentioned extra income, my voice dropped without meaning to. I said I just wanted my own thing so I didn't lose my skills. She nodded without digging too deep, and I was grateful and annoyed. Part of me wanted her to ask if I was okay. Part of me wanted to keep this side of my life sealed tight. "We can try a few remote projects, see how it goes. Nothing huge at first, but it would be paid." Hearing paid made my eyes sting harder than any insult from him. I agreed before she could change her mind. We went over some basic details and I wrote everything down fast. She asked where to send payments and I did not hesitate. I gave her the brand new account, my voice steady for once. When the call ended, I just sat on the floor for a minute. Not crying, not smiling, just letting my brain catch up. Money that would not land in his account first. Money that did not need his permission to leave. I did not know yet that those tiny payments would save me later. My first task came in that same afternoon. I opened the email while my kids smashed blocks together on the rug. Nothing complicated, just data entry and checking a few documents. Still, my hands trembled like I was hacking the government. I worked in short bursts each time a cartoon episode started. Every keystroke felt risky and necessary at the same time. If he texted, I shoved the laptop under a cushion and answered fast. I kept my tone light, lots of emojis like I had no secret at all. When my kid yelled snack, I snapped the laptop closed on reflex. I already knew I would work through nap instead of resting. By the end of the week, my neck ached f. ROM bending over the screen. I sent the finished file and thought that was that. A couple of days later, an alert pinged my phone. Deposit received. The number was small, but it looked huge to me. I logged into the new account 3 times just to be sure. The balance was real, not imagined, not his. I could buy gas if I needed to leave in a hurry. I could pay for a night in some cheap place if things went bad. For the first time in months, survival did not depend on his mood. Of course, he noticed I was more glued to the laptop. One night he walked in while I was typing with my shoulders tense. "What are you up to over there?" He grabbed a drink and leaned his hip against the counter. "You've been on that thing a lot for someone without a job." My pulse jumped, but I forced myself to keep the same rhythm. Coupons and surveys, trying to stretch your hard-earned cash. I threw his favorite line back in a sugary tone. It worked, he chuckled and reached for his drink. "Now that's what I'm talking about, smart use of time." He walked away thinking I was hunting discounts. I sat there shaking with silent laughter that was mostly panic. Because in a twisted way, I was doing exactly what he wanted. I was reducing his costs by building a way out for myself. If he ever saw those deposits, he would not call it smart. The work kept coming in small batches. Tiny tasks boring to anyone else, gold to me. I scheduled everything around naps and early mornings and cartoons. Some nights I stayed up late, ears pricked for his footsteps. If he opened the bedroom door unexpectedly, my chest tightened. He also ramped up the little jabs during that same stretch. Must be nice not checking a single due date. Some of us have to grind, you just hang with the kid. Each comment landed differently now that I had a quiet plan. They still hurt, but they no longer felt like the final word. The more he nagged about expenses, the harder I worked in secret. I skipped takeout, cut my own little comforts, hid every spare dollar. I told myself it was temporary, just until things calmed down. Yet every time I logged into that separate account, I felt stronger. Like there was a version of me he did not fully own anymore. Looking back, that was the turning point, not the big fights. It was the quiet hours with my laptop and a sleeping toddler. Typing with the lights low, listening for the garage door. Counting those slow-growing numbers no one else could touch. I had no idea how fast I would be forced to use them. "You'd be on the street without him." His cousin laughed as she stabbed a piece of chicken. The table joined in with that awkward half-laughter people use when they feel weird. Across from me, he smiled wide like he had just won something. I held my fork so tight my fingers went numb under the table. The joke started with someone talking about rent prices. Then another relative pointed at us and said, "She's set, he covers everything." That alone stung more than it should have, but I stayed quiet. Then he added, "Yeah, she knows if I walk out, she's done." He lifted his glass and looked straight at me while everyone watched. Well, that was all I managed, one flat word that tasted like metal. My cheeks burned, but I forced a little smile so nobody would dig in. "Guess I should say thank you for not throwing me outside." My voice came out lighter than I felt, and that terrified me. Someone tried to shift the topic to vacations. He was not done though, he never stopped when he felt powerful. "Now I'm serious, she jokes around sometimes, but she gets it. One income here, remember who keeps the roof over this family." He slapped his hand on the table and the plates rattled. People laughed again, softer this time with their eyes on their laps. His aunt muttered something about him being old school and provider type. No one looked directly at me for a solid 30 seconds. I stared at my plate and tried to stop my eyes from watering. Inside my head, I started counting exactly how much I had saved. I actually do quite a bit around the house. The words slipped out before I could swallow them back. I felt every face turn toward me in slow motion. I might not earn like him, but I'm not useless. My hands shook so hard the fork tapped against the plate. He leaned back in his chair and stared at me like I was amusing. You hearing this, everybody? He gestured around the table, still smiling. She stays home all day and now she wants a trophy. If I walk out, this whole thing collapses, let's not pretend. That line landed in the center of the table and stayed there. No one laughed at that one, not even his cousin. His mom cleared her throat and reached for the bread basket. All right, enough money talk, we're all just trying to enjoy dinner. She did not look at me when she said it, which hurt more. From the outside, I probably looked calm. My back straight, my fork oving, my face neutral enough. Inside, I was stuck between humiliation and cold planning. If he could say that with an audience, what would he say alone? I chewed, nodded, and let everyone think I would drop it. On the way to the car, my legs felt heavy and slow. He walked a step ahead, keys swinging from his finger. When the door closed and the kid was strapped in, it was quiet. Too quiet. That dangerous kind of quiet that squeezes your lungs. Did you enjoy the show? I stared straight ahead at the windshield while I said it. He started the engine and smirked without looking at me. Come on, don't start, everyone was just messing around. You know how my family is, they joke about everything. That wasn't joking. I turned toward him and finally let my face show it. You told a full table I'd be nothing without you. You made it sound like I'm some charity case you took in. I'm the mother of your child, not a stray dog. His grip tightened on the steering wheel until his knuckles went pale. You're twisting my words again. I was pointing out reality that I cover the entire lifestyle. Everyone in there knows it, nobody had a problem with it. You're the only one who turns facts into some attack. I laughed once, sharp and exhausted, and it startled both of us. Of course they didn't argue with you, it's your family. You think your mom is going to stand up and scold you. No one wants to be in the middle of our mess. That doesn't make what you said any less disgusting. He pulled out of the driveway a little too fast. The kid hummed in the backseat, thankfully unaware of the tone. For a second I thought he would drop it and drive in silence. Instead he turned the music down and leaned toward me. Let us be real for a second, you would not make it alone. I felt the words slice through whatever was left of my patience. I have skills, I have options, I am not helpless. You talk like you picked me up off a sidewalk and rescued me. You begged me to leave my job so I could stay home. Now you dangle that choice in my face like a threat. He laughed low and ugly and shook his head. I didn't beg you, don't rewrite history to feel better. You cried in the kitchen about missing the baby and being tired. I stepped up and told you to stay home and I'd handle everything. So yeah, now I remind you where this comfort comes from. That word comfort almost broke me. Comfort is not feeling like you own me. Comfort is not sitting at dinner and hearing I'd be nothing alone. You talk about me like I'm some cost you tolerate. I feel like property in a house I clean all day. He glanced at me, eyes sharp, then back to the road. You are so ungrateful it blows my mind. Most women would love to stay home and not worry about work. They'd be thankful, not complaining that their husband pays for life. You have no idea how good you have it. I pressed my palms into my knees to keep from yelling. Good would be having a card that doesn't randomly fail. Good would be having my name on something bigger than a school form. Good would be not hearing my house every time you're irritated. I shouldn't feel scared every time you mention money. That last part slipped out raw and honest. He heard it, I saw the way his jaw flexed. Scared of what exactly? His voice dropped lower and the air in the car changed. You think I'm going to toss you and the kid on the street? I hesitated and that pause said everything for me. He caught it and his lips twisted. You actually do, don't you? You sit at home cooking and cleaning and picturing yourself homeless. What does that say about how your mind works, not about me? I turned back toward the window because my eyes were burning. That card declined in front of strangers because you changed it. You joke about me being on the street if you walk away. You tell your family I'd be nothing without you. You can't do all that and then act surprised I'm scared. He drove the rest of the way with his jaw set and shoulders rigid. When we pulled into our driveway, he shut off the engine hard. He sat there a second, then turned to me with a strange calm. You want independence so bad, find a way to earn again. Until then, I run this place because I'm the one keeping it up. Those words should have crushed me. We got the kid out of the car and walked inside like a normal family. He tossed his keys on the counter and turned on the TV. I went straight to the bathroom, locked the door, and leaned on the sink. Instead of crying, I opened my banking app and checked my secret balance. It was not huge, but it was real and it was mine. His voice echoed from the living room, loud and confident. He thought that speech in the car put me back in my place. What it actually did was burn away the last piece of denial I had. In that cramped bathroom with my phone in my hand, I started planning to leave for real. I snapped the suitcase shut so hard the zipper jumped. My kid looked up from the tablet on the couch and frowned. Going on a trip? Yeah, baby, just us for a little while. My voice shook enough that even he noticed something was off. My phone buzzed on the counter with a new email. Offer confirmed, start date next Monday, remote to begin. I read that line twice, then a third time just to feel it land. That job meant income I did not have to hide anymore. It also meant I was officially out of excuses to stay. I dialed the attorney's office with sweaty hands. Just checking we're still on for this afternoon. The receptionist confirmed the time and asked if I had documents ready. I glanced at the folder I had stuffed under diaper packs. Everything as prepared, I'll be there. Next call was the small home daycare a friend recommended. Can you still take him starting next week? She said yes without hesitation and asked about his schedule. He'll be full-time for now. Saying that out loud hit me like a sudden drop on a roller coaster. I loaded clothes, a few toys, and some paperwork into trash bags. Not neat, not organized, just fast and quiet. I only grabbed what we absolutely needed for the next month. Anything bigger than that would slow me down or start a fight. The house suddenly looked less like home and more like a stage. Every time I walked to the car, I checked the driveway. His usual return time was still an hour away, according to the clock. I still moved like he might appear around the corner any second. The secret bank account balance circled in my head like a mantra. Enough for a deposit, food, gas, and not much else. I opened his drawer and stared at the marriage license. For a second, I thought about leaving it behind on purpose. Instead, I slipped a copy into my folder and shut the drawer. I was not running away in the dark, I wanted this legal. That thought alone made me feel reckless and sane at the same time. In the middle of stuffing pajamas into a bag, my kid tugged my shirt. Where's Daddy? At work. The answer came out too fast and too sharp. Will he come? Not right now. I crouched to his level and brushed hair off his forehead. We're going to stay somewhere else for a bit. Somewhere safe and fun. My chest tightened because I could not promise the fun part yet. I strapped him into his car seat so he would not wander while I packed. Left the car doors unlocked for quick trips. The driveway felt like a stage too, like the whole neighborhood watched. I kept waiting for a neighbor to ask what was going on. No one did, which somehow made it all feel lonelier. The last thing I grabbed was my laptop. That stupid rectangle had turned into my lifeline without anyone knowing. The moment I slid it into a bag, the garage rumbled. He was home early. I froze in the hallway with my heart punching my ribs. The interior door opened and he stepped in, loosening his tie. He spotted the stacked bags before he even looked at me. His eyes moved from the suitcase to the open front door. What's all this? His voice dropped into that low, dangerous calm I knew too well. We're leaving. I surprised myself with how clear it sounded. No wobble, no nervous laugh, just a sentence hanging there. I shifted the strap of the laptop bag higher on my shoulder. The car in the driveway suddenly felt miles away. He walked to the pile and nudged one bag with his foot. Going where? His gaze cut back to my face like he already knew the answer. You're not going anywhere, this is your place. Every corner of this is on my signature. I got a job. I lifted the folder like a shield between us. Remote for now, but real work, real paycheck. I arranged childcare, I meet a lawyer today. I'm done living like everything in my life belongs to you. He barked out a short laugh that held zero humor. The lawyer? For what, you think you're walking away with half of this? You didn't put a single dollar into this house or this mortgage. You've been surviving off my paychecks for months. I've been raising your child and keeping your world running. I kept my tone low so our kid would not hear the worst parts. That counts whether you respect it or not. And I have money saved in my name, not yours. I won't be trapped by your accounts anymore. His eyes narrowed at that. Money saved. Did you skim from our bills while playing around online? He stepped closer, chest puffed like he could intimidate me back inside. Because if you stole from me, that's a different conversation. The word stole made something cold settle inside me. I earned it remote work off hours on my own. Every cent is from jobs you don't know about. I never touched your salary, I just stopped depending on it. You don't get to frame my survival as theft. He glanced toward the driveway and spotted our kid in the vehicle. What are you doing putting him out there with bags like that? He lives here. He has a room here, toys here, family here. You're not ripping him away because you're mad about a couple jokes. This isn't about jokes. It's about you reminding me every day that you carry everything. It's about my card failing because you tightened it without warning. It's about you telling people I'd be nothing without you. I refuse to let our son grow up thinking that's normal. He dragged his hand down his face and exhaled hard. You're overreacting because you've been stewing in your head all day. Take a breath, unpack the bags, we'll talk after he goes to bed. That's how adults handle problems. You storming off just proves you can't handle real responsibility. Real responsibility is leaving before this gets worse. Real responsibility is not waiting until you decide I'm disposable. I'm not asking for you to approve of this. I'm informing you it's happening. You can talk to your child tomorrow when I'm not shaking. He grabbed my wrist, not hard enough to bruise but tight enough to warn. You're not walking out with him, you understand that. This house is mine, this life is mine, you're a guest here. You want to go, fine, but he stays with me. The words hit deeper than any insult he ever used. I pulled my arm free and stepped back toward the door. He is not property you can hold as collateral. I am his mother, I'm not abandoning him. I have a job, I have savings, I have legal help on the way. You treating us like belongings is exactly why I need to go. For a second his face shifted, something like panic flickering through. You walk out, don't expect to come crawling back. I won't be here waiting when you realize you can't afford life. You think they're going to give you some prize for leaving stability. You are blowing up a good thing because your feelings got hurt. Good thing for who? I pointed around the room he loved to claim. You get to play king of the castle and call it generosity. I get to beg at registers and ask permission to buy groceries. That's not marriage, that's ownership. He shook his head, jaw tight, eyes bright with anger. This is my house, my payment, my responsibility. You walking around like you built this is laughable. You wouldn't last a month without what I provide. He stepped closer again like he could force the truth to match his words. I felt my back press against the door, the knob digging into my side. My heart hammered but my voice stayed level somehow. You might have documents with your name, but you don't have me anymore. You don't control my access to money, work, or safety. You don't own this body, this mind, or this child. I straightened, hand on the knob. You don't own me. The sentence landed between us like a final line in a fight. He stared at me, stunned that I actually said it out loud. For once, he did not have a quick comeback. I opened the door and walked to the car without looking back. My kid kicked his feet and smiled when he saw me. Ready for our adventure? He nodded and reached his arms out for a hug. I strapped him in and climbed into the driver's seat on shaking legs. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the doorway, arms folded. He shouted something about lawyers and custody and regret. The words blurred together behind the windshield. My hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles pale. I backed out of that driveway like it was the last time because it was. Driving away did not feel triumphant, it felt terrifying and necessary. My phone buzzed with a reminder for the attorney appointment. I kept my eyes on the road and whispered to myself. You have income, you have a plan, keep going. For the first time since I quit my job, my future was actually mine.